All right. Good morning again, everybody. If you would, make your way to your seats. Give them that last high five. Give them a hug. Tell them I'll catch you after church to finish the rest of your story. Make your way to your seats. That would be fantastic. Welcome. I am so glad you're here this morning. If I didn't get a chance to meet you, I am Pastor Mike. I'm the lead pastor here at Church of the Lakes, and we are so excited, grateful that you decided to join us this morning. And want to just give you a couple quick announcements. If you're a first-time guest, we would love to get something to you in a guide. And so our ushers are coming down now. They've got guides. They've got pens. So raise your hand if you did not get an experience guide. They would be happy to bring one of those to you. And I always try to tell our guests two things. All right, listen up, everybody. Listen up. There you go. I try to tell our two guests two things. Our people really like relationships, so I have to, every week I have to kind of tell everybody we're good now. But two things I tell new guests. One, bathrooms, really, really important. So they're right here in the auditorium. People often go in the hallway and look for them. But right here, women's on this side, men right here, right up these steps. And the other is, people will often ask because they never see a bucket or an offering plate or anything like that. We don't pass one here. We have boxes in the back of the room. So our people drop the tithes and their offerings in the boxes in the back. And so we just want you to know that. If you're a first-time guest, don't feel compelled to give. We're just glad you're here. I just like for you to know that information. Speaking of giving, let me say to our church, as I try to do on a regular basis, thank you for your faithful giving. You guys are above and beyond amazing in your faithfulness in giving. And so I just want to tell you one thing you gave away just recently. So just recently, there's a new ministry starting. It's called Visit Ministries. Visit Ministries. And some of you, if you've been here long enough, you remember when we launched our teen center, a young man by the name of Jeremy Miller came from San Diego, California, taught on Sunday morning, and then he trained Eden initially on the Thrive Center, but he is kind of a specialist at teen centers. Well, he felt like God put it on his heart to start an organization to start teen centers all over the nation. So he has started a brand new ministry called Visit Ministries. And so I want to say thank you to you because of your faithful giving. Last week, we got to send a $1,000 check to Jeremy to say, hey, this is to help you get started in helping. And what he's going to do is he's going to partner with other people, have curriculum for resources and all that kind of thing for teen centers. So thank you for your faithful giving. You didn't even know it, but you guys are so awesome. You gave some money last week. And who knows how many teenagers in other places, in other cities in the nation, may have their lives turned around because you put a seed into that ministry. So thank you so much for your faithful giving. Appreciate that. Great news. You ready? We have been battling for a permit for a long, long time on a modular building to go in at our teen center. So we bought a old school portable that they refurbished and fixed up. We've been waiting to put it in. Ladies and gentlemen, November 26th, it will be delivered and put into place. So the day after Thanksgiving, we've got the building going in there. So here's what I also want to say to families. One of the things that some of the families have been asking me, because one of the reasons we're putting that building is we have this amazing couple that came, and they want to start a free martial arts program for kids and for the kids of our teen center. And so they've been waiting. They've put it all together. They bought everything. They bought the mats. They bought the belts, the shirts, pants, the whole 9 yards. It's free. It's free for our kids. And so we're especially looking at our kids in the neighborhood that don't have the ability, but they're going to be able to come there. But here's what I want to tell you. Anybody who's interested, families, if you're interested in your kids finding out, we'll give you dates coming up, but they're going to have some introductory classes in December. And then we're hoping to have the building finalized. Well, they'll start actually classes in January. So I just want to put out that on your radar, that we've got that program coming. Very, very excited about that. Next Sunday, our youth is doing an auction. Some of you guys were a part of it last year, and you remember it's fantastic. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything. You can be in your pajamas for this auction because it's going to be online, right? So you're going to be able to get onto YouTube or Facebook and watch their auction online and bid by text. Got it? Okay, so they're going to bid by text. Now, here's a couple cool things that Eden told me about. One is, Eden she went to culinary school, and she's doing a homeschool co-op, and she's been training some of the kids in culinary. Well, one of the items is Eden and some of those kids will come to your home and cook for a party of 6, kind of a thing. So that's anybody, what's it, Scentsy? Is that the right thing, ladies? Scentsy? Yeah, the smell stuff, you know what I'm talking about? Like there's a Scentsy basket that's a whole big deal that's supposedly a really cool thing. But they have like 14, 17, something like that items that they will be auctioning off. And the reason we're doing this, if you remember, they've got this project that they're doing called Dry Butts, right? Remember that it's the diapers especially in Haiti, but we're also looking to try to help them in Honduras. And so all the proceeds, everything that they do is going to go towards that. So we'll remind you next week. But the way it's going to go down is it's going to start is it 5 o'clock Eden on Sunday? 5 o'clock? Yeah, 5 o'clock is the actual video. You're going to have 24 hours until the next day before all bidding is closed. I believe twice in that time period, she's going to let you know what the highest bids are in each area. So in case you got outbid, you can try to bid again. But it'll close the next night at 5 o'clock. We'll have our winners, and all the money and the proceeds go towards that. So look for the auction. We'll remind you next week. Another thing coming up, December 11th, is our big block party right here at the school. We had a phenomenal meeting with the Christian Care Center this week, and Bill Jones there. The Father's House was also represented. They were there with us. Got another meeting with another church next week, and it's going to be an effort for us to bring people here to the high school in the stadium. The stadium's all booked. Mr. Randolph is excited and a part of this whole thing. But it's going to help deal with people who need jobs, people who need food. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to point them to local services. So I called Bill Jones over at the Christian Care Center. He and I have known each other, I think we were in Sunday school together like 23 years ago. And, but I called Bill and I said, hey, Bill, I know you guys do amazing things. Nobody should recreate that wheel. If you've never gone through the Christian Care Center, you need to go over there and go and see what they do. It's amazing. I mean, it's awesome. The programs that they've got going on. So we need to be a part of that and not try to do our own thing. Come on, Big C Church, anybody? You know what I'm talking about? So reality is, I called Bill and I said, hey, Bill, let's just be honest. There's a number of people that would never walk onto your campus because it's on, okay, I'll say it, I'll be politically incorrect, because it's at a white Southern Baptist church. And Bill said, yep, you're exactly right. That there's a number of people that probably will never walk on our campus. What this block party does is it gives a neutral place here at the high school where a whole bunch of people maybe feel comfortable, and there'll be all kinds of activities, advertisement. The Q radio station is going to go live from the event to help put it out. So, I mean, there's a lot to this. But what we might be able to do is connect some young lady to their pregnancy care center over there who may have never walked on their campus. Are you following what I'm saying? So this is a big C effort of the church, Big C Church, all of us united, and I'd like to see a number of churches involved. But the part we play is just to volunteer. So get on our website, check it out. There are different areas where you can volunteer that day. It's December 11th from 9 to 1 right here in the stadium. So get on the website, check that out. My last announcement before we get into God's Word is just to want to remind you of Christmas Eve, Night of Hope. Make sure you're inviting people. I think it's going to be well worth your time. Okay, I was thinking this question, and I just want to ask you a thought question, just for you right there in your mind. What motivates you? What motivates you? I mean, because, I won't pick on the fact that you could scream and yell and jump up and down at a TV when there's a bunch of sweaty men running around with a leather ball. But then we come and sing to God and my hands are in my pocket. Come on, let me just call it like it is. What motivates you? And I was talking to somebody this week, and we got into talking about sports and whatever. I don't remember the context. But I told them they were talking about a coach that he's kind of a yeller coach and all this. And they were like, I don't like coaches that yell and get all like that. And I said, I love coaches like that. And they were like, really? I'm like, yes. When some coach over the years would come and just chew my butt out, Matheny, rah, rah, rah. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go run somebody over. Like, that motivated me. It just did. Like, for some of you, it doesn't. For some of you, you know what I'm talking about. But here's my question this morning. What motivates you? What is it that really drives you? Is it as simple as, I just don't want my spouse to get mad, so I do it? Is it because I feel like my mama would come out from around the corner and hit me if I didn't? That's like me saying yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. Come on, somebody. I go out to the pickleball courts. No offense to anyone, but all the Yankees that come down, right? I start playing, and I'm like, yes, ma'am. And she's like, don't ma'am me, make me feel like I'm millions old. And I say to every one of them, listen to me, ma'am, I'm sorry, but if I don't, my mama's going to come out of those woods over there and hit me with her flip-flop. That's how this works. What motivates you? What is it that motivates you to do what you're supposed to do, what you're called to do, what you feel driven to do? What is that? Because I would like to submit something to you today. I believe that when we grab a hold of what God has called us to do, who our God is and what this life is all about, our biggest motivation is eternity. Our biggest motivation should not be here within this life. Our biggest motivation, can I say it to you this way? How big is your life compared to eternity? Like what seems so crazy important right now? Come on. What seems so just overwhelming on some days? Come on, somebody. Maybe if you got kids, you know what I'm talking about, moms. Like on what seems just so, or if you're in the middle of a business issue or somebody sues you or like what seems so critical right now, can I say to you, the Bible describes it as a mere vapor. And I want to submit something to you that maybe we need to switch our thinking. And so we're starting a series today called Living Legacy. Living Legacy. And I'll warn you up front, as I do every year. November is the one time period of the year that I talk about money. The rest of the time, you're going to hear me talk about what we give away. But during this time period, we talk about money. So for those of you who feel like, churches are always talking about money and all that kind of stuff, I promise you, survive November, you won't have to do it again until next November, okay? All right? But hear me on this. If we're going to live a legacy, if we're going to live something that matters, because I know a lot of people that are known for a lot of things, right? But if we're going to live out the legacy that I believe that God's called us to live, then we've got to consider the journey right now. Would you not agree with me on that? Like, what are we doing? And so we have a vision here at Church of the Lakes, a journey that we want to take you on, right? And it starts with the simple concept of know God, that you would know Him. Now listen to me, I don't mean here, I mean here. Right? The word in the Bible, know, it's gnosko. And it doesn't mean a head knowledge, it means a heart knowledge. I love Him. I have relationship with Him, right? I know Him. And then once you begin to know God, our next step in that would be that you would find freedom, right? That you would find freedom from your stuff. How many of you know you can take the rednecks out of the woods, but it's real hard to take the woods out of the redneck? Come on. Right? And you can put anything into that. You can take, anybody from anywhere, and it's hard, but it takes time to change. And it's the same with us. We come to know God and love Him and give our lives and surrender to Him. But now we got to deal with the stuff. I've got to get past my past. And we do that here at Church of the Lakes, quite honestly, through small groups. Because you can come here and hide. We're a big enough church. Come on, somebody. You can come here on Sunday mornings and hide. Right? You can come here and get your little spiritual fix. What you do at that point is you turn me into a spiritual drug dealer. Right? You come and get your little fix on a Sunday or whatever. Go on and go, all right, I think I can survive until next week. Or you can stop and realize maybe there's something more to this thing called church, the community that God has created, the body. And when you do, you've got to get around some people that know your stuff. Right? And that is how we're going to find freedom. And once you begin to not only know God and find His freedom, but I just believe this. I believe the fog begins to clear, that you might, third, discover purpose. There's two amazing days in your life. The day you're born and the day you figure out why. Why are you here? What motivates you? What is it that drives you to do what you do, right? Why are you on this planet? And once you begin to discover some purpose and becoming more of a living legacy and motivated by eternity as opposed to pressure. Come on, a lot of us are motivated by pressure. Pressure of this world, pressure of things we're supposed to do, what expectations of us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as opposed to being motivated by eternity. When you start to live purpose that way, well then guess what? Then you make a difference. Know God, find freedom, discover purpose, make a difference. This is what we desire for you, the journey that we desire you to go on. You're all created to make a difference. And I just got to let that sit for a second. Because I believe there's some here that maybe have lost that. Some that we're just kind of in survival mode. Right? But can I say this to you? Your life will never make sense until you know that you matter and you are living in such a way that you are living out your purpose. And there's something God still has for you to do. There's something profound that God still has for you to do. And if we don't, listen to me say it this way, if we don't define why we're here, two things will define why you're here. You ready? If you don't define why you're here, your desires and your problems will define you. If you don't figure out why it is that God put you here on this planet and live in that, your problems will start to define you. Well, this is just who I am, and my granddaddy was a drinker, my daddy was a drinker, and I guess I'm just a drink, right? Or you become a victim to, my dad wasn't around, and I didn't have this, or I didn't have that opportunity, or you hearing what I'm saying? Your problems will begin to define you, or your desires. It's the things I'm chasing. It's all about the kind of life that I can put together for myself. Become what defines me and who I am and what I do. And so I want to challenge each of you, if you hadn't been here before, you need to come to Life Steps. I talk about it every week. Some of you guys have been coming for a long time and you hear it every week. But listen to me. There's something more than just coming and doing. This is fantastic and this is a beginning. But we want to take you on a journey. And today, let me just say it this way. Today is a great day to come to Life Steps. Because it's step 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about what it means to be in community. I'm going to tell you about Church of the Lakes. I'm going to tell you about how we're structured. I'm going to tell you about who I'm accountable to. I'm going to tell you how we do finances. And you can ask any question you want. I'm going to talk about our bylaws and our statement of faith and the whole 9 yards. What a perfect opportunity for you to come and see if this is where God would have you plant and be and maybe find your purpose in that. So I want to challenge you. If you want to come today, as soon as we finish, go out the doors, go left, and down there is a place called The Rock. It's on the door. Meet me there, and we'll spend about an hour together today and start to walk through this journey. Why? Look at Psalm 112 and 5. Good will come to those who are generous and lend freely, who conduct their affairs with justice. This is the line I want you to see. Surely the righteous will never be shaken. And you go, well, I don't know about that, Pastor. Are you trying to tell me that I could live life and never be shaken? That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not telling you things around you won't shake. I'm not telling you that your surroundings won't be shaken, maybe even to earthquake status. Are you hearing what I'm saying? But to those who know why they're here, to those who are on the journey of knowing Him, finding freedom, discover His purpose, and making a difference, you can be in the middle of the shaking and not be shaken. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? That is a promise that the Scripture gives to us. But look at the rest of this. They will be remembered forever. That's legacy. That's legacy. Let me give you a definition for legacy as we start this series. Legacy, where my life lives on. Where my life lives on. How? 2 different ways. By giving to something that will outlive me. Come on, giving to something bigger than me. For those of you who are struggling and feel like you're in the depth of problems right now, you know how to deal with your problems? You may not get rid of your problems. Matter of fact, some of your problems are going to stay for a while. Don't you feel encouraged this morning, right? But Jesus said you're going to have problems in this world. Do you know how you deal with your problems? You live for something bigger than your problems. You live for something bigger than yourself. You give to something that will outlast you. And then it says, living so that my life outlives me. Let me say it to you this way. What we do for ourselves usually dies with us. What we do for others lives on. This is how you deal with the craziness of life. This goal, the goal is not to live here on earth forever. Does anybody really want to live here forever? Because can I be honest with you? For people that talk about, oh, I hope to live this 100 and all this kind of thing, Mike just goes, I think you're twisted. I want out of this place, y'all. I want to get to heaven and see Jesus. Somebody come on. Right? So I tell my wife, I'm going first. You don't have a choice. Right? Because I ain't trying to do this thing, and that's selfish. I know it's selfish. Please don't write me an email. But you get my point, right? I want to get to heaven. We're not here to try to live here forever. We're rather here to live so that something that might last forever because of what we did here. Right? That's the goal. And we get so mired down in the stuff of this world and the challenges and the distractions. Don often calls the minutia, right? Or stuck in the weeds. Come on, some of us feel like we're just kind of stuck in the weeds or in the minutia of life. all the little stuff and the pool and the bills and the kids and the schedule. Come on. Right? And we get stuck in that particular place. As your pastor, I feel like it's my job to guide you in two places. Two places. And another word for pastor is shepherd. Shepherd, right? So I'm a guide. I'm kind of like a tour guide. And I kind of feel like that if I'm really honest. Like I feel like a guy that's like, you know, I've got the staff and some of you guys are doing stuff and I come over and go, well, hey, whoa, boom, boom, like get back in line over here. Right? And this is kind of off a little bit there. Like that's what we do is we're just like guides. But I think we're guides in two ways. One is we're shepherds or guides in this life. Right? That this life, it's important how you live this life. But the only reason it's important how you live this life is because this life affects the other life. This life determines much of the other life. So that's what makes it so significant. But the second is that I would guide you in the other life. That whole, I've said it before, that whole YOLO thing, you only live once, that's not true. They need to change it to YOLT. You only live twice. Because you live this life here, and then you live in eternity. And that eternity, listen to me, is based on how you lived this life here. Like that has so much to do with it. Look at Romans 14 and 10. You then, why do you judge your brothers and sisters? Right? Like it's in light of this concept that this thing is going, why are you looking at everybody else and trying to fix them? And we all do it. You know we do it. Right? We've often been in places and then walked out the door and looked at somebody we're with or our spouse or whatever and been like, I'll spank those kids' butt for them. Right? Like we all, it is so easy. Come on, y'all. It is so easy to point out everybody else's junk and their sin. Right? Like we look at other people, they're dumb. What is wrong with them? Right? But all the time we have a hard time. It says, well, why do you treat them with contempt? Why do we say the things we say? Listen to this. For we will all stand before God's judgment seat. All of us. It is written, as surely as I live, says the Lord, every knee will bow before me. Come on, somebody. Every knee is going to one day go, yep, Jesus is God. Everybody at some point is going to bow the knee. Every tongue will acknowledge God. So then each of us will give an account for ourselves to God. Let me say it to you this way. There is a final exam in heaven. Now, are there anybody here who are bad test takers? Anybody? Let me ask it this way. Are there any good test takers here? Yeah, we don't like you. Just stay at home on test day. You're killing the curve. Come on, somebody. Right? Like, no, I'm glad you're a great test taker and God made you that way. But you know, like for those of us who in multiple choice, anybody struggle with multiple choice? You know what I'm talking about? You get to it and you're like, ooh, A looks good. Yeah. Ooh, B's looking fine. Yeah. C looks, okay, D, none of the above. Anybody else? Right? Come on, like this time. Well, here's what I want to say to you. When I was in college, here we go. When I was in the fraternity and I lived in the fraternity house, I was taking genetics from a dude who was a German genetics whiz. Okay. Somebody told me he won the Nobel Peace Prize. I never confirmed that. But our class, this is what our class was like in genetics. He stood at the board and he would draw these things and go, that was our whole class. Because we couldn't understand a word he was saying. We would record him. And playing it back, we could make out about every seventh word kind of a thing. I mean, like I was struggling in genetics. And then the test would come, and the test was one sentence and a blank page. Turn the page, one sentence, blank page, one sentence. There were 3 pages, 3 questions, blank page. You got to pick 2, and your whole test was based on those 2 that you answered. Right? Come on, somebody. I did really good to get a D. That's all I'm trying to say to you. And I was struggling in this class. And then one of my fraternity brothers said, dude, what class are you taking? I'm like, genetics. He's like, come on. I'm like, what? And we go down to the basement of the fraternity house. Some of you have told this story before. And there's all these filing cabinets. And they're labeled. Genetics, Bio 1, Algebra, whatever. And he said, who's your teacher? And he opens up this. And there's a folder. And what they've been doing for years is if they got tests back, they would file them away. So you could look up your professor and look for the test. And it may not have been the exact test, but it was pretty darn good. You know what I'm saying to you? Right? I got really good at genetics, y'all. Here's what I'd like to do this morning. I'd like to help you with the final exam. I'd like to do something this morning. I'd like to give you the questions and the answers of the final exam. Because I want you, if there's any test that I want you to pass or do well in, it'll be the test when we get to heaven one day. And we've got to answer to God. So in eternity, here's what I really believe. There are 2 questions. You ready? 2 questions. Get ready. Write them down. I'm about to give you not only the questions, but the answers. Here you go, everybody. Like, you're going to have it. You're done. You're going to win A+. It's all about it, right? Here's question number 1. And while this might not be the exact words, I'm confident it'll be something like this. Here's question number 1. When you get there, they're going to ask you, what did you do with my son Jesus? What did you do with my son Jesus? Because what I did, God talking, what I did is I sent him to earth to die for your sin. See, you have sin. You have things in your life that you know are outside and not. We don't need to point out other people's sin. They know it's sin, y'all. Come on, we just need to point them to the solution. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? Right? And he says, I sent my son to die for you, that you would not have to pay for your own sin. I love that. So when people say to me, but hell, the whole hell thing, how can God do that? God didn't make hell for people. God made hell for Satan and anybody who might follow him. So hell is not a place that God sends people. Hell is a place that people choose to pay for their own sins. And what I'm saying to you today is I'd like for you to do well on this exam. I'd like for you to choose the right answer, right? And the question is this: what did you do with my son Jesus? And let me show it to you in case you think, well, is he kind of just making this up? Let me show it to you in the Word. Revelation 20:11. Then I saw a great white throne, and him who was seated on it. The earth and the heaven fled from his presence, and there was no place for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books with an S. Do you see that plural? Books. Books were opened. Okay? Another book was opened. Are you getting a picture? So we got books, and we got a book, right? Which was the book of life. The dead were judged according to what they had done, as recorded in the books. Right? Here's what I would say to you. I don't know what it's going to look like. Like, is it like a waiting room? Is it kind of like the DMV? By the way, I pick on the DMV a lot, and they're killing it lately. Anybody been to the DMV lately? Come on, they're doing a good job putting it together. Like, give them a little credit when you go. It don't take as long. But it used to be, come on, somebody, you sit in there forever. And I kind of wondered, like, is that what it's going to look like when we're waiting for the great white throne judgment? We're waiting, all of a sudden it's like, Mike Matheny. You know, like, is that what it looks like? And yeah. But Sal, whatever that looks like, you're going to stand there and you're going to say, what did you do with my son Jesus? And what's interesting about this is there's nothing you can do to earn it. There's nothing you can do to make this happen. The only thing that you can do to be a part of this or to pass this part of the exam is to realize God sent Jesus to sacrifice his life for you. The response God is looking for is for us to turn around and sacrifice our life for him. That's the answer. And what happens is you got books. Now these books, these are the books of everything you've ever done. Come on, somebody. I have this picture for Mike of just dump trucks. Unending dump trucks of books. Boo, boo, boo. You know what I mean? Of all the stuff that I've ever done. And all the things that I've ever thought. And all the unholy things that I've ever been a part of. But here's all these piles of books, and then they're going to take the book. And if I surrendered my life to Jesus, if I made him Lord of my life, my name is going to have been written in the book. And if my name is written in the book, guess what happens with the books? All the bad stuff gets erased. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of erasers for Mike Matheny. And so, when that comes, now there's a problem. I ran into somebody recently and it's like, well, I just believe when Jesus died, he died on the cross for everybody, so everybody's saved. There's a problem with that. Let me read you out of Matthew 7:21. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the ones that do the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? Do you hear that? They performed miracles. They didn't just show up for Sunday school. They performed miracles. They did some pretty crazy things. Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. The word there is gnosko. I never knew you. Not know, head knowledge. No, I love. I'm passionately in relationship with. Are you hearing me in this scenario? And so if you're going to pass this test, if you're going to understand this question, and the question comes to you, what did you do with my son Jesus? Here's the correct answer. I knew him personally. I spent time with him. I sacrificed my desires to do what he wanted me to do. I gave whatever he wanted. I chose, all my young people are sitting over here. I went to college where he wanted me to go to college. I married who he wanted me to marry. Right? I'll go turn this way, and I know everybody's sitting in different places, but in my retirement years, I did what he wanted with my retirement years. Right? Like, that's the correct answer. That's what's going to happen in that moment. That we're going to have to, and that's what gets our name in the book of life. Not that we just prayed a prayer when we were 3 years old and really didn't understand what we were doing. Not that we've been in church our whole life doing churchy things, but that we have a personal relationship with you. Knew him, relational knowledge, not head, but heart. So the first judgment, listen to me, the first part of the exam determines the rest of eternity. That's what's interesting about this. So let me tell you the second part, because here's what happens. Most Christians don't realize if you're a believer in Jesus, you're going to go through two judgments. Two judgments. The first one will be the one we just described. And if your name is in the book and all this stuff is erased, then you go on to this next place, and it's the next part of the exam. It's the second question in the exam. And here's the question, and again, not exact words probably, but I'm pretty sure about the context. And it would be this: what did you do with what I gave you? What did you do with what I gave you? See, you surrendered your life to Jesus. You gave me your heart. Okay, so then what did you do now with what I gave you? Your time, your talents, and your treasure. What did you do with that? 2 Corinthians 5:10. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may receive, catch this, what is due him for the things done while in the body, whether good or bad. Now here's the problem. The bad's been erased. But here's what's going to happen. Here's how cool God is. Let me ask you a question. Do you think God owes you anything? I don't think so. Like, from my perspective, he owes me nothing, right? Ding diddly, ding dang dong. Nothing. You know what I'm saying? But what is so amazing about our God, and what is so amazing about this particular scripture is in the original language it uses the word apodidomai, which is that he was going to pay you back for what you do for him. What a generous God. You know, like, how cool is that? Like, he doesn't owe you anything. Just the fact that he sent his son and died for you and let you into eternity. Awesome, God. I will worship you for the rest of eternity just for that part. But he says, no, listen to me. What you do in this life, I'm going to pay you back for. I'm going to reward you for what you do in this life. Jesus is going to pay you back. He's coming back. Hopefully before the next election cycle. Come on, somebody. But and listen to me, Jesus is coming back, and he's going to bring rewards with him. So there's like 4 of y'all that are excited about that. I guess everybody else needs to get to work or something. Yeah. Listen to me. So here's the argument. Well, is Christianity a works religion? Because I thought you just, it was all a free gift and all that. It is salvation. That first part of the exam is completely free. Nothing you can do. You can't go to a church enough. You can't memorize enough scriptures. You can't listen to worship songs all day. You can't stay away from R-rated movies and all that stuff and earn that. That's only because Jesus says, I love you and I die for your sins. And we just accept that free gift. But just listen to me. The second part of this is all about works. It is all about what we do. It is all about what God has called us to do and the fact that He has work for us to do. I often point out in Life Steps, we read through Genesis in step 1. And it says that He placed the man in the garden prior to the fall of man, prior to sin. He placed the man in the garden to work and keep it. Listen to me. Work is not a punishment of sin. Work is about calling. Work is about meaning. Work is about purpose. And if you've lost that in your work, you forgot to bring God to work with you. He has you in that place for a particular reason. Maybe it's only for a short season. But He's got you in that place for a reason, right? So the question, what did you do with what I gave you? And the answer, I believe, should be something like this. I gave my life away. I gave my life away. Whatever you gave to me, God, I turned around and gave it away. Whatever I have, whatever resources you give me, I turn around. Once we surrender our lives to Jesus, everything's about Him. Making Him known and serving His purposes. Making Him known and serving His purposes. Making Him known and serving His purposes. That is why you're here. If you're a follower of Jesus. That is what we do, right? And so I want to go back to what I asked you at the beginning. What are you motivated by? Because I hope I just gave you a new motivation. I hope I just gave you a biblical, eternal motivation. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? Then I want to come to know Him so that my name is in the book. But then I also want to do His purposes because I want to one day stand before Him. Come on, somebody. Everybody wants to walk in and hear Jesus go, "Oh, well done, good and faithful servant. Yes, had a baby." That's what I'm talking about, right? Nobody wants to walk in and have Him go, "Well, you're done." What is it that motivates you? And I think we've got to be a little more intentional. We've got to be a little more intentional about our understanding of what am I doing here and all the things that I'm concerned about in light of eternity. Look at Ecclesiastes 3:11. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. It's in you. It's already in you. It's why we can go to cultures and do missions, but in those cultures where there is no organized religion, they have some form of worship. Why? Because eternity has been set in the heart of man. There's something inside of you that wants to do something bigger than you're already doing. Come on. Well, we all have these big dreams and these big thoughts or whatever, and oftentimes they get squashed by other people, right? They're crabs. You ever seen a crab try to get out of a bucket of crabs? You know what happens? The other crabs pull the crab back into the bucket. Try it. It's for real. But that's the story of many of our lives. That although eternity's been set inside of you, dreams have been squashed, and people have said, you could never do that, you could never do this, and you could never do that. And I want you to hear this morning that we need to be motivated by eternity. We need to be motivated by an understanding of the way that God sees all this. And so I want to close today. I'm almost done. Let me close today with just a few thoughts of things that I think are practical things. And the word I want to use is intentional. Intentional. I want you to think about being intentional towards eternity. Intentional about now what we have talked about and learned about and been reminded of this morning. Reframing the way that I think and even maybe the way that I live. What are some ways that I can do that? Number one, I will intentionally give what I have. I will intentionally give what I have. And you go, I don't have anything. Really? You got a couple thumbs, don't you? Anybody got 2 thumbs? You could text somebody a message and say, I hope you have a great day. Anybody got arms? Anybody here got arms? You can hug somebody and say, man, I just appreciate you today. Right? We get into this mindset because we're Americans. It's got to be big. It's got to be gargantuan. You know, it's got to be this big ministry that has websites and followers and all. We're all into branding and blah, blah, blah. Listen to me. Intentionally give what you have. Like, what is it that God has given you? Well, let me give you an idea. How do you use your social media? Is it given to you that you might motivate people towards eternity? And do you use it that way? Or do you motivate people deeper into their color across the aisle? Right? Or do you motivate, or do you use it just to argue? Because some of us just like to argue. I find people who like to argue are the first ones that tell you they don't like arguments. Come on. Right? Where are you investing the talents that you have? What does God want me to do with the raise that I just got? I just want to ask you to use your mind a little bit differently. So I talked to some of the young people here and others in other places. How does God want you to use your singleness? I had a conversation with one of the girls the other day, talking about feeling pressure. You know, grandma's, when are you getting married? When are you having a baby? Blah, blah, blah. And her friends are engaged and friends are all this stuff, right? And I was like, no, don't feel the pressure. Don't feel the pressure. What is it that God wants you to do with this? You live your life. What is it that God wants you to do with your singleness? What is it that God would have you do in this place? So let me give you a couple thoughts. Because I'm not just talking about giving money. I'm talking about time, talent, and treasure. Time, talent, and treasure. How are we intentionally giving it in light of eternity? So let me give you an idea about stuff or resources or money if you want. What's a way to become intentional? Let me ask you, why don't you become a percentage giver? Here's what I mean by that. Okay, a tithe is 10%. I'm not telling you how much. I'm just saying to be intentional is to pick a percentage. Right? I love the example. Larry Burkett was the predecessor to Dave Ramsey. He was somebody that Dave Ramsey looked up to. Larry Burkett was the first guy to talk about finances in the church. Start writing books, doing seminars, how to budget, blah, 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 blah. He was way before Dave, and he was the very first one. So because he was first, his books started selling, and seminars started happening, and all this sort of stuff. And I love when I learned the story that Larry and his wife sat down and said, how much is enough? And they came up with $75,000. Said $75,000, that's enough for us. Anything we make more than that, we're going to give away. And I thought, there's motivation by eternity. I'm not saying 75 is the magic number for any of us. Some of us need to live higher. Some of us maybe need to live lower. Look, this is not a comparison thing. This is a do what God tells you to do thing. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? So what would it look like for you to become a percentage giver? In a few weeks, we're going to do something called a legacy offering. Now listen, I'm telling you weeks out because I am not going to put up swollen babies' bellies and the right music and all this to draw your emotions. This is not an emotional thing. We do something every year called a legacy offering. Not a dime is for Church of the Lakes. All the projects we're looking at are in some way serve the community, give to the community, do different things. I'm going to tell you all about them next week. But I want to tell you now, because I'm not going to drop it on you last minute and twist your arm and do the emotional thing. I just want you to start praying now. God, what would you have me do? And then do whatever God tells you to do. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? Like, what is it? But I want to challenge you. Are you being intentional? And I think an intentional way to start with that is to be a percentage giver of some sort. Or how about this? How about just simple acts of kindness this week? What would it look like for you to go to lunch today and the waitress is horrible? You ever have one of those? Like, service is just terrible. Like you finish your sweet tea and your hors d'oeuvres and your dinner and dessert, and then she brings you a second sweet tea. You know what I'm talking about, kind of thing? What would it look like in light of eternity to look at her today and go, man, maybe you're having a rough day, but I just want you to know you're awesome, and leave a hunkin' tip. Like, what would it look like for us to just slow down a little bit and be kind to one another? So, number 2 is this: I will intentionally serve others. I will intentionally serve others. Now listen to me. If you're new here at church, listen to me. And you need to come and chill out for a little while, that is totally cool. If you're coming off of a bad scenario, where you were previously or whatever, I got you. Come, chill out. You're welcome to do that. But eventually, I need you to hear something. You're going to need to plug in. Not because we need you. Can I be honest? We're doing pretty good right now without you. We do a lot better with you. Why? Because you need to be plugged in. Because you need to be serving other people. I promise you, the more you serve, the smaller your problems feel. It happens over and over again. Matthew 20 and 26. Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. Plug in. Right? Like, choose to do. And can I challenge you? If you're a big time business owner, if you've got some status in the world, can I challenge you to come to the church and take the lowest position you can? You go, why? Well, because that's what Jesus did. What did he do in the room with his disciples? He put a towel on his arm and he washed their feet. That's disgusting, y'all. That grosses me out. I don't like feet. Anybody else? I don't like feet at all. You don't like feet either, Marcus? All right, good. We ain't doing no foot washing up in here. No, I'm kidding. But do you hear my heart? Do you hear what I'm saying to you? Like, what does it look like for us to humble ourselves? Because that's what Jesus did. Right? Whoever wants to be great among you must be your servant. Whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. The last one is this. Intentionality in the way we serve God. In light of eternity, our motivation eternity, I will intentionally share Christ. I will intentionally share Christ. I will intentionally share Christ. Christmas is coming, y'all. Christmas Eve service is going to be a great place to have an opportunity to invite somebody to come to church. Right? I love one of the ladies I was talking to over here. She's like, she had been here 6 weeks. She said, I've been here 6 weeks, and every week I meet somebody new in the parking lot. I'm starting a parking lot ministry out in y'all's parking lot. I'm like, that's fantastic. What are you talking about? That's fantastic. Yeah, come on. Like, let's get outside of ourselves. Right? And pay attention. Intentionally sharing Christ. Intentionally investing in somebody else. Can I give you permission? You ready? Here's your permission. You have total permission to come to me on a Sunday morning and say, Pastor Mike, I brought a friend this morning. Don't blow it. I would love for you to say that to me. One, I just told you I'm kind of motivated by that weird kind of stuff. So I'm like, yeah, bring it on. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. But also, you have never known what it was like to experience when an unchurched person is sitting next to you in the seat and all of a sudden they lean forward. You know what I mean by that? They lean forward because there's something grabbing their attention. And can I give you another permission? If they come and we get to the end of the service and I say all heads bowed and eyes closed and I give an invitation, I give you permission to one eye peek. But keep this one closed. But just, you can look. Because you will never know what it feels like when you see that person's hand go in the air. Or you see a tear go down that cheek. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? That is why we are here, church. That is why we are called. We should be motivated in light of eternity. All this other craziness, come on, y'all. Mortgages and 401ks and kids and where they're going to school and not going to school. And should we homeschool or should we private school or should we public school? Come on, vaccinate, mandates. Come on. The world is crazy. The world has absolutely lost its mind. Do you know why? Because it's lost its purpose. And its purpose is tied in eternity, not in all this cockapoo-poo that's going on around us. I want you to be motivated by eternity as you go through this week, as you determine what it is that God wants you to do. Let me give you some more verses and I'll close, I promise. 2 Corinthians 5:20. We are Christ's ambassador. God is making his appeal through us. How is God communicating with the people around you? You. That's what that says. So be careful how you live, right? My wife reminds me all the time, you better be careful how you drive. You got a Church of the Lake sticker on the back of your truck. And it gets me. I'm in the left lane like, be careful. He's making his appeal through us. Luke 14:23, go out in the country and urge anyone find to come in so that my house will be full. Right? We don't want it full because you want elbow room. Let's be honest. Ladies, you want a place to put your purse down. You want listen to me, but God, you know what God desires? Is for it to be full. Right? That we would say, people come. Why? Because 1 Timothy 6:17, command those who are rich in this present world. Can I say something to you? You may not agree with me. That's okay. That's you. That's you. If you live in the United States, you're rich, period. If you live in Central Florida, you're rich, period. Right? If you're part of what's going on here and what God is doing in our midst, you're rich. Somebody said to me earlier today that another lady came and visited the church, and she said, you know what? I'm a worship leader and I'm part of worship, but when I watch the worship team, it's awesome because they actually like each other. Are you laughing because it's not true or that's just funny? Okay, just making sure. But you know what I took that as? Listen to me, what's going on around us right here and what God is doing in our midst. We're rich, people. And I'm not just talking about finances and we got stuff, but listen to me, why do you have a swimming pool? Or why do you have that Suburban? Or why do you have that boat? Or why do you have that stuff? Or that house? Or whatever it is. Why do you have that stuff? In light of eternity, what does God want you to do with the resources that He's given you? I gave it all away. I used it for your purposes and for your meaning. That's the call, right, on our lives. Not to be arrogant and put your hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put your hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, to be generous and willing to share. In this way, listen, in this way, they will store up legacy. They will store up treasures in heaven. That's what it means to be motivated by eternity as a firm foundation for the coming age so that they may take hold of the life that truly is life. When you sacrifice in this life and you store up treasures for yourself in eternity, you actually are living the true life that you're meant to live in this life. It works that way. So can I challenge you today? Let me ask you the question again. What motivates you? My heart today, my desire today as your pastor would be that you would be motivated by eternity. And in light of what God has said to us today, what do I need to do this week? Let's pray. Father, thank you for your word. Challenged us today. Reminded us today that this life is not all there is to life. There's a whole eternity coming. God, would you help us to reprioritize and be motivated based upon eternity, not just on what I get today or my problems today. So restructure my thinking, God. Refocus my heart. And while your eyes are still closed, I got to ask, there may be some of you who feel far from God. Maybe you feel far from God because it's just been a long time and you've been away from Him. And you sense today kind of His voice saying, I really would like you to come back. I'd like to have a relationship again. And maybe today you need to recommit your life or recommit your heart back to Him. For some of you, maybe you feel far away from God because you've never had that relationship. Whatever the case is, I want to pray a prayer for you, with you. I'm going to give you some words. You put the heart to it. Something like this. Jesus, today I surrender my life. Come into my heart. I want to know your purpose for me. I want to live your calling for me. Thank you for forgiving my sins, for dying on the cross for me, Jesus. I declare today you are Lord of my life. I surrender all. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. And all God's people said, amen, amen. Man, I just want to challenge you this week. In light of eternity, why are you doing what you're doing? In light of eternity, how would God have you live this week? What would He have you do? Church, would you stand to your feet? The team's going to worship. You're welcome to stay and worship, or you're welcome to head on out or come join me in Life Steps. Have a great rest of the week.
When the heart is under fire, another way when the walls walls are closing in. And when I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fight, standing next to me. There was another in the walls, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding of how I've been set free, there is a cross that bears the burden, where another died for me. There is another in the fight. All my dad left for dead beneath the walls. I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. And should I fall in the space between what remains of me and this reckoning, either way I won't bow to the things of this world. And I know I will never be alone. There is another in the fire. To me, there is another in the fire, holding back the sea. And should I ever need reminding of power set me free, there is a grave that holds nobody, and that power lives in me. There is another in the fire. 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 And I can see the light in the darkness, and the darkness bows to Him. I can hear the roar in the heavens, and the space between where it sits. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us. There is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and still lives and will be through it all. So come what may in the space between all the things unseen and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. And I know I will never be alone. There'll be another in the fire, standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters, holding back the sea. And should I ever need reminded He who was and still is and will be through it all.